Benvenute a una nuova trasmissione della Fiera del Libro Virtuale Italia. In questa occasione abbiamo la presenza di Imen Melitti. Ci presenterà il libro The Real Friend. Grazie Imen per essere con noi. Avanti.
Salute il popolo italiano, ti auguro buona serata. Ti sto parlando della Tunisia. Sono molto felice di essere per presentare il mio libro per bambini. Okay, good evening everywhere for those who are following us this hour. Let me please start by presenting myself. I am Mيليتي Iman from Tunisia. Holding a PhD in International Relations from the British College, Master of Art in English from the High Institute of Human Science, and Master degree in Gender Issues. I'm also qualified in written translation. I'm bilingual, English and French, but Arabic is my native language. I'm a poet and author. I've published my first academic book in 2017. Then I have several articles in many newspapers. I'm also a poet, as I said. I have a collection of texts. My poetry book is still in printing process, and it will be publishing soon. Concerning my job, of course, I'm a teacher for 14 years in a vocational public institute specialized in aeronautic field. I'm also a member in several associations. I'm interested in humanitarian issues. That's Iman briefly. I would talk about my experience in writing for children. So this idea, it's not random. It was well planned and programmed. I'm living in a small community, so I observe and I can see that we have a shortage in children books in English. Why? Because the children books which are available in our local libraries are, most of them, I'm talking about the majority of books, are translated from French to English. So our children already knew the story, knew the event, so they don't have this desire to discover it in English. That's why I've thought to write with a Tunisian pen for Tunisian children, but in English language, knowing that English in Tunisia is our third language. Our second language, of course, the dominant one is French. For this reason, I've thought of this way of writing. But before that, and I will invite you to join me to talk about children's literature, or let's say juvenile literature. So this type of writing includes stories, books, magazines made for children. And modern children literature is classified into different ways: genre, or the intended age of the reader. So as we know, children's literature can be traced to story such as fairy tales that have only been identified as a children literature in the 18th century. So it's a very old issue. The part of the wider oral tradition that adults shared with the children before publishing exists. The development of the early children literature before printing was invented is difficult to trace even after printing became widespread. Many classic children's tales were originally created for adults. So here we have to know that historically speaking, the first who wrote tales is not intended for children. It was intended and target for adults. So they are about a kind of tales which were originally created for adults, audience, not for younger audience. But later on, it was developed and has been shaped for children, of course. And most of those writing has been shaped by religious sources like Puritan's tradition. But by the late 19th century and the early 20th century, they are known as the golden age for children. So it was like a boom. So this is a summary, and let's say this is how writing for children has emerged. So it's very important to shed the light on this type of writing. And of course, the one has to ask himself, what's the importance and what's the value of writing for children? Of course, it's very, very significant to write for children and to give children access to all variety of literature, which is extremely important for their success. So educator, parents and community members should help children, or let's say students, develop a love and passion for reading. And me as a teacher and as an educator, I'm usually working on that. I'm usually trying to push the children, to push my students to read. And I usually evaluate the importance of physical book, with the electronic wave, etc. Most of the people have tendency to read on a PC or to read on smartphones, so they neglected the physical book. But I still put the emphasis on physical book. So not only reading literature is important in developing the cognitive skills, I mean the mental skills, to be able to succeed in a school or work setting, but it's valuable for other reasons as well. So here, for instance, I would talk about one professor and the critics who is called Donna Norton, who wrote about this. In 1910, she identified children's literature for young people in her book, Eyes of Children. So she said, I quoted what she said, literature gives the students appreciation about their own cultural heritage, and it helps children develop emotional intelligence and creativity. It also nurtures the growth and development of children's personality and social skills. Second, children's literature provided an avenue for children to learn their own culture and cultural heritage in general and the culture of other people. So in this context, I have written my children books. I will show you some of them. So those are my books for children's. So through those writing, I try to transfer some positive message. I tried also to taught children indirectly and implicitly some lessons in life, because it's very hard to teach children some big words like values and the principle. For example, we cannot teach children tolerance and discrimination, what else, hatred, some kinds of values which seems a little bit ambiguous for them, or social prejudice. But we can transfer some messages smoothly in an easy way through those writing, through stories like this. Personally speaking, my writing are in general about encouraging and accepting difference of others and how to be tolerant and never make a prejudice. So my book, for example, my book, The Real Friend. So The Real Friend is a tale, is a kind of tale, teaching children several rules and principles in a very smooth and easy style and way. Of course, I will tell you how. For example, my characters are animals, and our frame, of course, is the natural space, which is the forest. So here I gave the children the opportunity to imagine, and I draw their attention, because all we know that children love so much animals and forests and nature in general. So behind this frame and behind my plot, my characters, my events, I try to make my children, the children of the world are my children, to teach them accepting and tolerance and forgiveness. So those are life altering lessons. So tolerance is one of the most important virtue on which I shed the light. And the position of this virtue leads to cooperation and solidarity in the social life. I show them this through the life animal in the forest. So my book, Real Friend, which is about animals, I will tell you in a brief what is it about. So it's about a huge elephant. This poor elephant was rejected and excluded by his friend. Why? Because of his shape, because of his appearance. So his animal friend rejected and refused his friendship because he is huge and he cannot play or fly or swim with them. This poor elephant felt alienated and isolated, and it's very painful. So it's a very bitter feeling. One day, the animals were frightened by a monster. And the elephant notes that. So he did not hesitate to help his animal in need. So they saved their lives and protected them from the monster because of his huge body. At that time, the animals recognized well the importance of the elephant. This elephant who was rejected by his body, they need it now. They were saved because of this body. So I taught them never discriminate a person, never judge a person basing on his appearance. They become, by the end, this is my moral, by the end they become friends and they become unified as one family, and this must be happen in our family and social life. So my story ended up by this moral, and of course I wrote this moral in the last page of my story. This is in the last page. So I will read you a part of it. Speechlessly, the animals found themselves owing the debt for the elephant who saved their lives. They admitted that friend indeed is a friend in need. So this is a very simple story, but inside there is a very important values and principle that we must plant in our children so that they they can be very positive individuals in the future. That's all. Thank you very, very much. First, before ending, I have to thank all the person who helped me in the creation of this small work of art. My house edition, Arabesque, Mr. Monsef Shebi, thank you very much. My designer, Amira bin Ahmed, thanks a lot for working with me, for those beautiful color which draws the attention of the children and bring some joy to all the children. Thank you a lot. I hope that my presentation wasn't very heavy. I hope that my voice is heard. Thanks a lot. I'm so proud to represent my country, Tunisia, and be among international authors. Thank you for this fruitful program. I owe the debt for all of you. Thanks a lot from Tunisia.
Grazie Imen per essere con noi, per tutti quelli che ci vedono vogliamo ricordarvi che il programma della prima fiera virtuale del libro continua e per favore rimanete connessi. Arrivederci.